For many years, I had a secret, one that left me fighting feelings of guilt, shame, and especially the fear of being found out by my family or members of my church. I wasn't doing drugs, having an affair, hitting the bottle. No, the problem I was struggling with is one that hides in the shadows and quietly eats away at you, emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes even damages one physically. I'm speaking of an overwhelming compulsion to watch pornography. It's a harmful trap many of us fall victim to, and then spend years, maybe even a lifetime, trying to get free from. This is how it was for me. In fact, this is the first time I have ever publicly talked about it, and I'm only doing so now hoping that by sharing my story, someone who is reading this and also struggling with this problem will find help, as I did. It all started relatively innocently. My family had recently bought a satellite dish, due to us living in a small country town without cable television. One day while alone, channel surfing, I stumbled upon an adult channel that should have been scrambled and unable for me to view. As a young man, my natural curiosity, along with a tsunami of raging teenage hormones, compelled me to watch immediately. I knew this was wrong. I had been taught to guard what I watched, read, and listened to, as anything that polluted my mind would interfere with my relationship with God and my duty to best serve Him. I vividly remember dropping to my knees, asking God for forgiveness and promising to never allow myself to watch this filth again. I was sincere and meant to keep my word, but a few days later, while once again alone, the urge to check and just see if this channel was still available to watch was too much for me to fight. Luckily, this time the signal to the channel was blocked and I couldn't watch. I actually gave a sigh of relief knowing this forbidden fruit was no longer available to tempt me. Phew. Crisis averted, right? Well, not quite. Soon I found myself once again taking a, quote, quick peek, just to see. This time, the channel was on again, and I once again couldn't resist watching. I was now caught in a snare and could not break free. This was the beginning of a terrible cycle of giving in to temptation, asking for forgiveness from God, swearing to not watch anymore, and ultimately failing, over and over again. Why was this so hard? At the time, I just thought there was maybe something wrong with me. I had no knowledge of the scientific reasons behind any sort of compulsion, which led to constantly beating myself up for being a failure. Even worse, a fake Christian. Growing up the son of a church elder and someone held up as an example of a young Christian man, most would have been shocked to find out my secret. Here I was a role model to other youth of the church while hiding this habit that made me feel like a hypocrite and fraud. The worst was when I was sitting in church the morning after giving in to temptation. I felt so unworthy of the love of God after knowing I had let Him down. This is the problem with pornography. It starts as something that seems relatively harmless. We use excuses like, everyone does it, or it's not really hurting anyone, but deep down we know it's wrong on so many levels. Especially if you are a follower of Jesus Christ. You have Him telling you when something is egregious in nature and detrimental to your walk with God. Unfortunately, the chemical rush your brain gets from watching pornography is close to the same effect heroin addicts experience from shooting up heroin. This is why it is so hard to defeat this compulsion, especially on your own. With the stigma attached to pornography and the embarrassment felt when talking about this topic, it causes most people to keep this problem hidden in the shadows while they struggle alone. I wish I could say as I grew older that I was able to overcome this compulsion through faith and willpower alone. The reality is, pornography had a strong hold over me for almost 2 decades. Now, there were periods where I would go months without giving in, but then something would happen which would once again trigger an overwhelming urge I just couldn't fight off. When it became so easy to watch pornography anytime and anywhere with mobile technology, I knew if I didn't finally deal with this head-on, that it would soon interfere with everything I truly cared about in my life and wanted for my future. The day everything changed for me was when I finally forced myself to reveal my secret to a close friend in my church. He went above and beyond to be there for me as someone I could pick up the phone and call any time the urge would hit to give in to temptation. Most importantly, He held me accountable. Every week, we would get together to sit down, and he would look into my eyes and ask me honestly if I had given in and watched pornography. A few times, I was forced to admit I had failed. It was a horrible feeling, but my friend didn't look down at me and rather encouraged me to get back on track. Through the power of accountability, I was finally able to put this lifelong problem in the rearview mirror. But I still face temptation. And guess who I call when I do? The same friend who is always there for me and helps me to remember how great it feels to live porn-free. Fast forward 11 years later, and I've created an amazing new technology that makes it easier than ever to put the power of accountability to work in defeating the porn compulsion. It's called Porn Reboot, and it is a system created to fill the missing ingredient in most other quit porn programs, by providing an unmatched level of accountability and a system that leads to permanent change in its users. So how does it work? Our approach blends personalized one-on-one and group coaching, educational resources, a supportive community, mindfulness practices, biohacking techniques, meditation and contemplation sessions, concierge accountability, and cutting-edge technology. Once we identify the root causes, we focus on healing them, empowering you to fulfill your potential and live your best life. This leads to a permanent change in self-image. We also have software that runs quietly in the background, recording snippets of your online activity. And anytime you access explicit material, a confidential report is sent to someone you trust, like a spouse, close friend, or church member who you designate as an accountability partner.
This is what makes Porn Reboot so effective at helping you break free from the chains of pornography.
While there are many courses and programs out there, they mostly consist of recycled counseling material, basic self-improvement, and habit change approaches, which do not change your self-image.
The problem is with how easy it is to outsmart these approaches.
If you really want to give in to temptation, there's nothing to stop you from simply making a choice to ignore that approach, isolate yourself, and just binge watch pornography. With Porn Reboot, it's not possible to cheat without your accountability partner finding out, leading to an uncomfortable conversation. It's not possible to relapse or backslide once your self-image has changed. This is what creates a wall of protection around your mind and why our success rate is off the charts compared to other alternatives. But what about privacy? Well, Porn Reboot is hosted in private groups. No recordings are allowed in any of the sessions. All notes taken by your coaches are physical, and all your data is erased as soon as you end your behavior. No one but your accountability partners will ever know that you overcame this behavior. It will be like a bad dream that you have forgotten about. Porn Reboot gives you the tools to create rock-solid accountability, so you can finally break this painful cycle of pornography that's interfering with your life.
There's never been a better opportunity to try out Porn Reboot than right now.
With a special offer only for those of you watching this video. Yep, for a limited time, you can take a 60-day test drive with full member benefits, so you can get started right away with a porn-free life. We call it our 60-day love it or leave it policy. It's easy to get started. Just click the button below to schedule a no-obligation reboot evaluation call with one of our reboot coaches and begin your 60-day test drive of our program. They'll make it as simple as possible to join and put it to work in defending yourself from the temptation of pornography. In fact, it takes less than an hour to both have the conversation and get fully set up with coaching, 24/7 accountability, and protection through the unbeatable power of accountability. When you sign up, I'll even give you a special course called the Reboot Lifestyle Course, which will help you with ways to redirect your newly found energy.
This totally free gift is yours to keep, whether you end up joining or not.
But I'm convinced that once you experience firsthand what this system will do for you, you will never want to be without it again. Why? Because there is so much more to life than what you've been experiencing due to this unhealthy habit.
It's time to make the important, even life-changing decision to eliminate pornography from your life.
Thanks to Porn Reboot, it's now easier than you have ever imagined. But this special offer isn't going to last long. So please, Go ahead.
Click the button below to start your 60-day test drive of Porn Reboot
before it's too late.